Um, I've had a bit of a varied career. I worked in a whole bunch of different countries, uh, and I kind of did almost every job there was to do with an IB school. I was an MYP coordinator for quite a long time, um, and I was a PYP coordinator and a CAS coordinator. So, what I tried to do with what I'm trying to do with today's thing is I thought how to organize it. So AI is here; it's not going away. So those of us who use it best are those of us who are going to succeed, right? There's no chance of keeping that genie in the bag anymore. It's out, and so I thought, and that's kind of what my main interest is uh, developing artificial intelligence literacy with the teachers that come to my graduate classes. And it's interesting because even though it's been around for quite a while, it's only been relatively recently that you can actually use it, like really use it with students. And my students are about half of them are Japanese. And although people think Japan is a really technically advanced country, they're still amazed by the photocopier, right? And PowerPoint to them is like it's a major technical innovation. And teachers, because they're mostly IB teachers not, but most of them come from a very content-based tradition of teaching. So it's textbook, 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 kind of like mugging up for the exam. So they're having trouble figuring out how they use this to make kids mug up better. But we'll see. So, anyways, I kind of organized. I'm going to talk a little bit about how I'm using it, and what I think what it would have been really good for when I was a MYP coordinator. So I just kind of ran MYP coordinator role and job, and basically there's kind of three functions of it: pedagogical leadership for sure. Um, Being the IB's liaison, which is a little easier. Well, it's not easy if you do the e-assessments, and it's just as hard as being a diploma one. And also program management, making a program work. And I think there's a lot of potential here. So yeah, I kind of broke it up to the for pedagogical leadership. There's curriculum planning and feedback, curriculum mapping, meeting documentation, because um, I think we always were pretty good at keeping minutes at meetings because you need those as evidence when you go through program evaluation. But now it's like meeting notes on steroids, and there's hundreds of tools that do it really well. But not just meeting. I don't really use it with meetings. What I use it for is with my classes. And I'll show you an example. And I think it's really important to model when we're teaching to actually model it. This is Chrome, the browser I'm using right now. But on the side, when I teach, I always have the AI agent open and working. And I'll show you some examples of how we use it in my actual classes. Um, uh, one thing with my students, I know they're making changes to the MYP planner, but the trouble is that most teachers don't understand where the planner came from, right? It's one part Lynn Erickson and two parts Wiggins and McTighe. And if you don't know about those traditions, quite often it's just people just treat them, they're just putting stuff in boxes, right? And I think it's really hard. The IB doesn't do a good job at, you go to a workshop and they spent like half an hour on it, right? And then poof, you're off to like sent off to create these kind of amazing things. So if you just go on ChatGPT and open ChatGPT, you don't necessarily get the greatest answers. The key to using these things really efficiently is to create custom GPTs. Notebook LM kind of does that, but Notebook LM is a little broader than an actual custom GPT. And one of the things that my students all have to create an MYP planner, and they don't know it. They've never used it before. So using mostly, I think it's mostly that evaluating MYP unit planners, they can get feedback on the whole planner and then get feedback on on little bits of it, and it's not looking at anybody else's planners, right? It's just looking at the documentation. So it doesn't really hallucinate. Once in a while it does something weird, but what are the features? What are the features of a good inquiry statement, right? Right. And it'll pop out the information. And then if you actually type in one, I'll just, why is it not doing it? There we go. There we go. Sorry, I just got stalled. There. So it'll go to the documentation. It'll actually bring it up. And then if I put one in here, uh, insects are insects are good for the environment. And let's see what it does here. Is that good? Woof. Yeah, no, it's not. It's gonna send me back and get me to refine it. What I've noticed is since I gave this to my teachers, when they produce MYP unit plans, they're pretty good. It won't produce it if you use a custom GPT, it shouldn't write the planner for them. It's not really a problem for me, but kind of I'm going to talk a lot about this is proving authorship. Um, not so important for a planner, but much more important for an essay or something. So when my students use these tools, they keep a Google Doc and they paste everything they asked it into the Google Doc. And so when I can take their planner, GPT does it, their planner and that AI log, right? It can identify what ideas it took, and it can give me kind of a report on how well and efficiently they were actually asking questions. So I use these quite a lot. I have these built out for a whole bunch of different for different DP subject, PYP, a whole bunch of them. And for each, just a sec, I'm just gonna click here. Oh, and here's an interesting thing that it did for me yesterday. I'm a big believer that whatever you're talking about is supposed to have a reason to be talked about. So what I did was I gave this slide presentation and actually I used Codex, but I gave it the program standards and practices, and I got it to organize all the slides around the program practices. Something which would have taken forever to copy and paste out of a PDF. Like it would have been hours and hours and hours. We wouldn't have done it, right? There's just no way I would do that, right? But as it knows here, and here's just an example of the conversation. So this is actually this is a program of inquiry. And I know this is probably too small for you to read, but this is kind of amazing. So that's in a different feedback engine. But this one here suggests unit with central ideas specified in additional concepts for a POI for grade 2 using the Australian curriculum to incorporate as many subjects as possible into each unit and make sure you keep track of what can be taught inside and outside the unit of inquiry. That prompt, pressed a button, it built one. Just like, I mean, you still had to play with it, right? But it built it, right? So it will do this with subject group overviews and all that documentation that, sometimes teachers kind of care and sometimes they don't care, right? But at least this way, the quality of your documentation is going to like go way up, right? Because it will have all the stuff included in it. So that's an example of how you can use it as a planning partner. And later, I'll show you a video that of one of my students actually doing it. Um, oh, curriculum mapping. What is this? Oh, for subject group overviews. This one's really important. So the other thing that I do with my students is I collect other unit planners and I get them to compare. I get GPT to compare them to each other, right? To actually find out who's a really strong planner, who's not so strong, right? It's kind of like evaluating a unit planner, but automatically, right? And it does pretty good. I wouldn't let it give any grades because it doesn't do that very well yet. Most people fail if you try to grade stuff. Well, especially with the MYP criteria, like I have the personal project feedback engine, and they all fail it every single time because it still can't. It treats criteria as criterion referenced, not related. So it won't give any like if it's not there, the kid gets a zero every single time, right? But they can keep working at it until they don't, right? They can keep submitting it over and over and over and over again. The only trouble is if you don't pay for one of these plans, you get five good questions and then it starts spitting out garbage, right? So that's kind of something I emphasize with my students. Okay, you got five good questions. Make sure you're asking good questions, right? Now, I think they get five a day or something like that if they don't pay. It might be a little bit more now, but it wasn't very much. And they were kind of complaining. I said, well, ask good questions or work with a partner. Then you have 10, right? Uh, Here's a particularly complicated example of curriculum mapping that I just did. Um, I'm My university is connected to the Japanese government, Japanese Ministry of Education. And we're trying to lobby them to get one part of the CP, uh, like to replace a local course. And so the Japanese curriculum is really hard to read and it's in Japanese. And the IB things are a little bit easier. But this went through like hundreds of pages and it picked out all the objectives and put them where, and it was good enough that the course got accepted. So that's kind of good. And again, that would have taken forever, right, to do on your own. Meeting documentation, we mentioned this already. But all of these things now will pretty much create a good script of your class or whatever, right? Uh, and it turns the transcripts into minutes and it can also do bilingual summaries. So because I teach in English, but I have Chinese students, Korean students, and Japanese students. And last year I had a woman that spoke French but her English was very good. So basically, um, uh, this is an example of what I do after class. So Zoom records it, Zoom spits out the transcript, right? I I I read it to make sure that it's true, and it does like a really detailed analysis of my classes. And when I first started using it, it didn't actually give you any more, but now it gives more. It's like sort of like it'll give you a link to an article about that thing and stuff like that. It's like it goes beyond. But that's probably because I pay. And that's because since I pay, I have memory. If you don't pay, ChatGPT doesn't have memory. And that means every time you turn it on, it's starting from scratch. But every time I turn mine on, it understands my every question I ever asked it, right? Since I started using it on November 23rd, 2022, the day it was released, right? But Zoom will do this. It doesn't create the infographic for the thing. That infographic, I think I create that with ChatGPT. They all do that too. You just feed them that stuff. But the great thing is, the English and Japanese is pretty much flawless. Every once in a while, it will do something funny, but it's usually a Japanese a problem with Japanese. It's not really a problem because it's not translating, right? Its Japanese is as good as its English, right? So it's just rewriting it in Japanese, right? Um, more, oh, and as I mentioned before, I think when I teach, I always have this on, right? So, like for example, the next slide that's going to come up is about. Oh, I could ask it right here. Uh, what, what, what browser, what browser is best AI? But I would ask, like, usually when I use it in class, every once in a while a student will bring up something and you just don't know where it came from. Well, this will go find out where it came from. Things like and other stuff that, like I don't know if anybody here is aware of the PYP, but there's something that came out in 2018 called the Dimensions of Assessment, and nobody at the IB that I knew could explain where they came up with it. But if you take something like that you don't really know where it came from and stick it into, especially Scholar GPT, it'll show you all the authors that contributed to it, and it's pretty amazing actually. And so we quite often do that in class, especially if I get a question that it's like I don't know, right? And because I haven't taught for quite a long time, so I don't have all those answers right on me. But the ones Atlas, Comet, and now Chrome, this is Gemini and Chrome. Atlas is OpenAI one. Uh, and this is an example. So, so here's a slide. This is me teaching, right? And basically, what was this one? This one's ChatGPT created an infographic of what we were talking about while we were talking about it, because some and really good quality. When it first came out, there were spelling mistakes and it was sometimes really weird. But now they're like good, right? They're pretty much flawless, and you don't get a bad one very often. But I do that with my students so they see how to do it because um, if they don't use it, if they're new to it, they have trouble prompting. And I think Ashley is going to talk about prompting. But the good thing is now this will fix your prompt on the fly. It'll make suggestions to improve your prompt. But that still doesn't help my students because they don't really understand the body of literature that well. So sometimes they're not asking the right questions. Liaising with the IB. This I think is really important. Although I wouldn't leave, oh, just a sec. Um, oh, pro program standards and practices evidence. So you all have 1,000 documents floating around your school, right? Now you just PDF them all and it will write your self-study for you. Because we have a self-study coming up with IB for our program. And I gave it all my course materials and it just went like bloop, and it just populated the self-study. It was amazing. And it's all right. And it's way better than what I could do. Because I mean, I probably know where that thing is, but I can't remember where it is at the moment. Right. So, and like I said before, uh, making sure you have the right putting the program standard up whenever you're having a meeting with your teachers, I always thought was really important because it should, or providing they know what it is, it should it should inform your teachers of the reason that we are talking about this, right? But it was used to be hard to do because you had to find the PDF and copy it and paste it and blah, 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 blah. But now it'll just do it for you. It'll stick it wherever you want them stuck. Um, oh, this one's really good. My students also write a personal project, and this is the this is the best thing. Um, the personal project, I'll just open this one up. So this is the personal project GPT. Oh, now in this one, I put all my past students' personal projects, and can you show show me examples of how they'll work. Boop. So, come on. Okay. Uh, Log in. Oh, I'm not logged in. Google. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, here we go. So it'll actually search, and this also works with the extended essay because if you go get all the examples of student work off the PRC, right, then kids can actually do this, right? So this is actually saying this is how these students did it, right? This is examples from their work. Like, how good is that for to do with kids in their personal project? How did somebody else solve this problem in their thing, right? Meets a strand, right? Right. These are the strands. One student states fairly general goal. Next one says stronger. But again, I wouldn't use it to grade because I mean, it will give you information against where you stand on the criteria, but I wouldn't use it to grade yet. It's not good enough to do that. It's still a little ways away from that. So that's an example of but as a coordinator, how easy is that to like make your, not just the students, I always found it was the teachers that never actually understood the personal project because they didn't like it wasn't their thing, right? And so they didn't know what the expectations of the personal project, and then they wouldn't get the kid to know, and then it was just a disaster, right? So that's an example of how you can use it for standard, and then that becomes a tutor. It becomes more powerful. Oh, and the other thing that this is amazing at, grasp analysis. I don't know why, but it writes the absolute best grasp analysis going, right? And because they take quite a lot of time, right? I didn't do them, right? But now I do them. And I kind of look, and it's really good for you because you go, oh, that's not what's supposed to be happening, right? And it's really good for the students because they get a really good kind of good information about the expectations of the project. And it basically creates masterpieces. They are phenomenal, right? This is just back to the custom GPTs I use. So I've got like a GP planner coach, investing in personal project. uh, uh, I have one for each MYP subject so that, and I would, if I was at a school, I would give the kids access to that information because, sometimes if you have, especially a really high achieving student, right? I don't think it's common practice to give the kid the DP guide for their subject. But if they have a dodgy teacher, really smart kids have to teach themselves, right? So why shouldn't they have access to the guide so they know all the rules? Why not? Because they can query the guide, and then it becomes a bit like a tutor, right? Um, so I do that with my students, and with my students that are learning about this, they do quite well. And basically, if you do it in ChatGPT, you just give it the files, and it kind of sorts it out. It's You could do it in Notebook LM. I have both Notebook LM and ChatGPT. But Notebook LM right now, maybe tomorrow it will, but you can't attach a file yet, right? To make these feedback engine work well, the student has to attach their work, right? So, yeah, I don't know if and Notebook LM is good for a lot of things, but I don't think it's so good for this, right? Uh, but what it is good at is explaining to both students and me, right? What is it supposed to look like? When is this extended? How long should it be? Is this a good paragraph? Did I do this? But yeah, again, really important that they keep an AI logs so that you can compare their work, right? Their finished work to the conversation they had with GPT, right? So and that's once I put this in place for my students, the first year they wrote extended essays were kind of not very good, but since they've been using this, they're good extended essays, right? Oh, this too. Well, I've talked about translating before, but what works really well, especially if you're going between two IB languages, if you upload the bilingual glossaries and keep that in a custom GPT, then it does a much better job. Also, one other thing that I've been toying around with is I loaded all my program information into a custom GPT, right? And I give this to my students, right? So how, how do I get the certificate? So any questions? It won't handle the Japanese university administration stuff, but any questions about my courses, it will do. It'll answer those questions, right? Like it's going to pop out any second now. Isn't that funny? How we're like faster, faster, right? Oh, there it goes. So it'll answer that question. So I give access and this will answer any emails that I get. Any questions from students, it writes emails for me, and you have to read it, right? I wouldn't just automatically just send, but it does a pretty darn good job at it. Uh, and two, what my students my students do, I've seen them do this. Why are we learning about a UBD planner, right? So they can actually ask why I'm teaching that thing. Like what is he going on about? Yeah, backwards planning. See, it'll explain it, right? It tells them why, because it has access to all my course materials, which is pretty cool. And I don't get very many questions from the students anymore, to tell you the truth. They can ask me if they want, but that answers the questions better than I do. Oh, and the most amazing thing is translanguaging. It makes this. It didn't 2 years ago, but now it really does. So this idea of translanguaging is you let the kid use their strongest language. So now in my classes, this is a forum post. So this is obviously a Chinese speaker. She wrote it in no, Japanese. She wrote it in Japanese. she puts this prompt, translate this into English without changing the tone, intent, or adding any information, and poop, it comes out in near perfect English. That makes mine because we have AI all over our writing anyways. Like anytime you write anything, Grammarly's seen it and Google's checked it and blah, 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 right? But this, what I noticed was that my students, the quality of what they were handing in just went through the roof, right? And I know they know it because we talk about it in class. So I know that they've actually they've done the stuff because that's a bit of a concern. A little harder with high school kids, I think. Um, oh, and the other thing we do, I have the automatic translation feature in Zoom. So I told everybody to stop speaking English. Please speak whatever language you speak best. I will, because you don't sound good if you're speaking another language, right? It's not so good. And answering program questions, uh, this one here, oh yeah, common MYP files. So I uploaded all the of the MYP documentation, right? How many, how many, right? How, oh, come on, type in the box. Do you need? Uh, right? This used to be my job, right? And my job is like gone, right? So it's going through everything, everything written about the MIP, and it's gonna kick me out the right answer. And I've had heaps of people use this to look for mistakes. No mistakes has ever made a mistake yet. Because it's really this is what they're built for, is like comparing your question to, there we go, 50 hours, right? Since IB times teaching hours exactly 60 minutes, this translates to a minimum of 3,000 minutes of PE a year. Ooh. Yeah. So it's pretty good at answering those kind of questions, especially from the IB documentation. So that's another thing. These are just, I'll give you access to these later. These are just the custom GPTs and the notebook spaces I made for all the MYP and DP courses. So that's kind of useful. Professional learning. So this this really shines because I mean we're the everybody knows that the IB workshops just kind of go over the nuts and bolts, but they don't touch the theoretical underpinnings, right? And not everybody has an education doctorate, right? So not everybody knows exactly what the effect of this from John Hattie's Metadex is, right? That's like a lot of stuff to kind of keep floating in your head. So one thing, one thing that I think is really useful is, and I'm just going to go to it, it's Scholar GPT. Just like more, go to GPTs. Scholar GPT is only trained on what do you call it? Peer-reviewed articles. You have to go here to get it, right? But it doesn't, it's only peer-reviewed articles. And it's really good with its stuff. It gives good stuff back to you. It'll give like references. It used to be that sometimes the links to the paper weren't correct, but they are now. They're all correct. It doesn't make, it makes the odd mistake with a link or something that it gives you for the reference, but it's a pretty useful thing. And that's what I usually have on in the window here on the side so that we can actually find out those things. I think it's a pretty powerful tool. Maybe not so useful with high school students, probably, but with your teachers, right? Because maybe they don't have the $4,000 that you need to take that Lynn Erickson course. They'd like to, but they can't, right? But this gives them access to amazing stuff, right? And not only that, it gives access to all the papers on all the planet and all the languages the planet speaks almost. Like, I don't know if you know this, but Vygotsky was a Russian psychologist working, I think, in the 20s, right? And his papers never got translated until 1972. And once they did get translated in 1972, it changed educational psychology, right? It was just like, whoa, how is this around for so long? None of us knew it, right? So that's going to cause like huge increases in research and the likes. Oops, I'm going to this next. And These are pretty amazing. I don't know if you've I don't know if you've met up with this yet. This thing is amazing because some kids do better if they see it rather than they hear it. Google Vids. Uh, and Google Vids is pretty cool because it basically takes your uh, and video was kind of hard to work with if you weren't really good at editing, right? But now with Google Vids, um, it does a whole bunch of different stuff. It'll make these cool. You give it a script, it'll make these avatar things. But the one I use the most is convert slides. So I'm just gonna go open. I'll open it and I'll show you. Oh, it'll take me to my videos. There we go. This is boop. So basically, what this does is it takes your slides and it builds a script. And the great thing about it is that the script is editable. You just type in the script and you press this button and it makes the voiceover for you. So if I hit go here,
differentiation, often referred to in newer documents as inclusion, addresses.
And it's using Gemini behind it, right? So it actually gives a better description of differentiation than I could. Oh, maybe on a good day I could do okay, but not if I was thinking about something else like paying a bill or something. So Google Viz is free. It doesn't seem to have any usage limits, and it's amazing, right? It's just the coolest thing. I love it. I love it. That's what I was saying. Oh, and of course, this everybody knows what this is. These are the explainers from that Notebook LM makes it, and they're kind of good. They can get a little bit boring, but now you have more ways of kind of making them work better. And what I like is I can do them in.
さあ、今回は IB プライマリーイヤーズプログラム
So I have them in English, Chinese, English, Chinese. You could do them. I've never tried to do one in Hindi. I wonder if it does Hindi well. Maybe, I'm not sure. But it doesn't do one language it doesn't do well is Indonesian. And I think it's because it depends on how much audio from that language it was trained on. And for some reason, Indonesian isn't so much. But my problem was I did this so much. I created so many of them. I had to organize them. So I got there's ChatGPT now has GPT sites, and it is an incredible coder. So I asked it to go into my YouTube account, collect all these explainers, organize the explainers, right? And I mean, I could never have coded this. It just wouldn't be possible. I mean, maybe I could have built a web page, I suppose, but it's got all the topics too, like language and learning, and it just pops them up. And there you go. You got hundreds of hours of like, what does the IB want you to do with the origin of international mindedness, the English only world. This is a really good one, actually, because anyways, it's a good one. So I created that. This one here is uh I think this is yeah. These are all the notebooks that I've created. I'm going to give you access to this stuff. So I think there's like 147. And they're all organized by course, by content. You can search. It doesn't search the notebook itself, but it does search the description of the notebook. And this one here is my favorite. No, this is my favorite at the moment. And what GPT Sites did was it gathered all those links and files. It built the page. It categorized them. It translated stuff for me, right? So these are these are all the infographics that Notebook LM has been making me, not just Notebook LM, but you can see they've gotten better. This is an older one, right? And this is a newer one, right? So the newer ones are much more useful. And sometimes that's all you need is just to see this, right? Like that you don't have to read two books. This will do it for you. Especially a teacher who's not that into the IB stuff. They might actually pay attention to something like this, but the evolution of community service to community engagement, that's a good one. Uh-huh. And this is the other thing I do. So during classes, modeling the use of AI for research. Basically, when a student asks me a question I don't know the answer to, right? I I I do some research the next day, and Scholar GPT pumps these things out for me in English and Japanese, right? It would pump it out in any language. I think, right? But they're oh, and it see, here's the sources. So if I click this, OC, please go where you're supposed to go. Yes, it went exactly to the paper. Yay, right? That's pretty powerful, I think. I think maybe nobody else says, but I think it's powerful. And program management, I'm just going to go a little fast here. Uh, just a sec. Oh, and also differentiation, right? We ask teachers to differentiate, but it's hard. They get confused with individualized instruction and they get all scared and weird, right? But now you can differentiate so easily. Like this one, for example, this is an example. This is a paragraph stanza from Shakespeare, and basically, I wanted the same information at all the different English proficiencies. And it just like, so it'll do that with a book. It'll do that with anything you give it, right? It'll actually adjust the English so it's understandable by somebody with a B2 English level. What else did you? Oh, and reviewing instructional materials. I'm doing this right now. So I take my slide decks, right, and I feed them into Scholar GPT, and it goes and identifies anything new that's been written about the topic. It corrects inaccuracies and problems. It's pretty amazing what it'll do. Sometimes it gives you too much information and you have to say stop. But so basically it'll go through my slide decks and will tell me what's wrong. Oh,
Hello. I think we are running out of time, Curtis.
okay.
Maybe we can close.
Okay, I just want to show one last thing if I can. So I've told you about that student of mine that he was using GPT a little bit too much. So I got him, hopefully this
Over
goes on.
IB learner profile attributes.
He's having a discussion about his planner with
The IB learner
Scholar
profile
GPT,
attributes are essentially the
right?
core values you cultivate in
And
students.
listening to the
These include
conversation,
thinkers,
he understands what he's talking about.
thinkers,
He didn't just get
communicators,
it to
disciplined,
knock off this
focused on
planner, right?
caring,
That
risk takers.
he had a serious, detailed conversation, and I think Ashika and I were talking about this. High school kids just get ChatGPT to write it and hand it into you. Nope, 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 nope. You make him do this. Now, taking video used to be a pain in the butt because it took forever to like analyze, but now you just feed it into ChatGPT and it will tell you whether they're doing it or not. You don't have to listen to hours and hours of video anymore, right? It will do it for you if you have it in the right format. Great. Okay, that's it for me. I think I just about made it all the way to the end. Oh, yeah, I did. That's the end.
Thank you
Yep.
so much.
So I'll make the links available to Ashika to share with you.
Thank you so much, Curtis, for this session. We have a thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Your address has Thank you, sir. Your address has broadened everyone's perspective, challenged our thinking, and ignited their imagination with thought-provoking insights.
Oh, just a second. Oh, that's good. Oh, good. That's good. I mean, everybody's still trying to figure out, is it cheating, right? Or what's gonna, I think what's interesting is because I'm old and I learned this stuff all the hard way by books and stuff like that, right? I think what's going to happen with kids now is they're not going to read anymore because they're going to get it to answer for them, right? And I think the reading is not there. So that's why things like recording these conversations with the tool is really important. And if you create a notebook through Gemini, I don't know, did I keep it? Gemini. Yeah, it's here. I think it's here. Oh, yeah, no, oh, no, no. Oh, yeah, it's here. So if you create notebooks inside Gemini, they become super tutors, right? And they keep memory of what's happening. I think this is my learning French one. Okay, what should what should what what should I work next? So it's going to actually build out a course for me, right? Oh, this is my Japanese one. Yeah, bingo. So then it gives me a test, and then if I fail the test, which I always do because I can't read, I can't read hiragana very well. It sends me back and makes me do it again, right? And you can talk to it, right? It'll talk to you in French or in French or Japanese. But you have to do this you build the notebook inside Gemini because then it uses Gemini's memory and Gemini's reasoning power to like know where the kid is and what the kid is doing. And it has to be on their account actually. But it's pretty cool. It's like a super tutor, right?